What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Forecheck, brought to you by the Ram 1500 Sport. It's Nick Alberga, joined alongside Rob Wong. We've actually sent Andy McNamara on a scouting assignment to Florida this week.
Not bad.
Yeah,
Not bad.
We asked Andy to go find a backup goalie for the Maple Leafs, and on that, I mean, it's pretty astonishing, Rob, in general, and I put this in my Sportsnet Fantasy 20 Thoughts on Sunday, how tumultuous a week it was in Canada for most of the teams, injuries in Toronto with the Anderson news as well.
Yeah, it definitely was. And Jack Campbell, now a member of the Maple Leafs. Mm-hmm. He was a guy that I think a lot of people expected to, at some point, land in Toronto. The connection, of course, with Kyle Dubas, and a guy that has had some pretty good success the last couple of years in the NHL. So love the trade from a real-life perspective. A couple of good starts so far for Jack Campbell. And we'll see how many he gets moving forward. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But it's a nice move for the Maple Leafs, and you got to be happy if you're a Leafs fan right now with Jack Campbell.
Oh, exactly. And certainly an upgrade on Michael Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. The hand was forced a bit from Kyle Dubas' perspective to make a move for a backup goalie. And certainly with Frederik Andersen, I guess we'll call it day-to-day right now with that neck injury. I think it would promote and endorse picking up Jack Campbell for some spot start duty if you need goaltending. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's not very highly owned right now, so he's going to be widely available. We know this Maple Leafs team is good, so that's a big...
We think.
We think. I mean, they're in a playoff spot as it stands right now. He's going to be making a lot of saves, going to get some opportunity, maybe pick up some wins. So for a guy that's readily available right now, if you need a second goalie, if you have Frederik Andersen and you need to pick someone up, then yeah, he's perfect right now as sort of a handcuff.
In Los Angeles, I put this out as well. Cal Petersen, a big reason why Jack Campbell was dealt was because Cal Petersen is the goalie of the future. I don't think Jonathan Quick, weirdly enough, is long for LA. I think there's a chance he gets traded in the next year or so. But Cal Petersen is going to see a lot of net. LA's not a good team, but another guy who's quietly like a stealth option if you need a goalie start badly. And I think he made 31 saves in a 3-0 loss against New Jersey on Saturday night. I think there's appeal there to make a streamer at a guy like Petersen, but he's proven in the past that what he can do at the NHL level.
Yeah, I think he's really intriguing for sure. And I think with LA, your biggest question is how good of a team are they? And it's always difficult to look at these goalies that are on bad teams because it's going to be difficult to pick up wins. Their goals against average at times could be, pretty inflated. So there are challenges to picking up goalies on bad teams, but he's going to get an opportunity now with Jack Campbell gone. So I think it's pretty evident that they want him to be their guy moving forward. And, Jonathan Quick's only going to be there for so much longer. So once the door opens for Cal Petersen, it feels like the sky's the limit for him.
The key word is opportunity. And with that, they're dropping by the second on the back end with the Calgary Flames. That's the big news here in Canada as well this past week. 2 captains lost in 1 week. I'd argue Frederik Andersen's the captain of the Maple Leafs. He's so important to that franchise too. But you look at Mark Giordano, Shea Weber, we can start in Calgary. Travis Hamonic goes down on Saturday night as well. Week to week right now is what they're saying when it comes to Giordano with the hamstring injury. But I've identified TJ Brody and Noah Hannafin as internal options. And in Montreal, Ben Sherratt's on PP2. Got a bomb from the point, and if he looks to the left of him, you've got Ilya Kovalchuk in that one-timer we saw evident on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ben Sherratt. He's a really underrated guy that I don't think people really look at. He's never been a household name necessarily, but bomb from the point, like you said, a guy that can block some shots too. So if you're in a league that needs that, that's huge. And I like the guys you mentioned in Calgary. Travis Hamonic, not exactly an offensive force, never been that, but he's going to get an opportunity. And TJ Brody, we've seen at times, can put up some numbers. So if he's playing on that first power play unit with guys like Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, and the like, he's going to have a chance at putting up some solid numbers. So I think those are some great candidates.
Sidebar guy as well, Noah Hannafin, actually on PP1 right now in Calgary. A big win for them on Saturday night. Some external options we've thrown out there. Damon Severson's been on fire with New Jersey. Jacob Slavin, Nikita Zadorov, Darnell Nurse, Matt Dumba, Charlie McAvoy, Colton Parayko's been on fire as well for the St. Louis Blues. Let's go to the Brock Besser injury now. This just happened on Saturday night, an upper body injury. I think right away internally, Brandon Sutter's been playing on that top line, but automatically you look at Jake Virtanen, who probably is thrown into the second line and play with the big boys here. He's had a really, really sneaky good season here.
Yeah, Jake Virtanen, a guy who we thought maybe was done in the NHL.
No, I agree.
Like a lot of people kind of wrote this guy off because there's always been question marks.
Very Zach Kassian,
Yeah, there's always been question marks about his, willingness to actually get better. Work ethic and things like that. But this year he's put in the work, right? Yeah. He's been phenomenal this year. So he's going to get a bump up in the Canucks lineup, going to get more of an opportunity to play with guys like Elias Pettersson, JT Miller. So I think Jake Virtanen, and if you're looking at a guy that's going to be readily available as well on the waiver wire, it's going to be in a great spot. So as you mentioned, it's all about opportunity. So Jake Virtanen, I think, is a solid option if you're looking at wing. Even a guy in Edmonton, Kyler Yamamoto, I think has been really good playing alongside Leon Draisaitl. So wing is always a good spot on the waiver wire to find a ton of guys with opportunity, but Virtanen and Yamamoto are two guys I'm looking at.
Lots of options right now for sure. And, the irony in Dallas of Alex Radulov's upper body injury, he actually collided with the guy who's taken his spot in the second line, Denis Gurianov. So have a look there. We've touted him a lot on the show this year. And other guys, you're going to talk about Ilya Kovalchuk momentarily, but the guy's been a man possessed with the Montreal Canadiens. Mikael Granlund, Kevin Fiala, they were traded for each other at last year's trade deadline. Nick Foligno. And my sneaky guy is Kiefer Bellows, comes up from the American Hockey League to play with the New York Islanders. A bit of a showcase. Maybe he's used in a deal to get a top 6 forward, but he's been really strong. Right now playing on the third line, but I wouldn't be shocked if he gets up to the first line sooner rather than later on a team just starved for offense, and maybe some exposure to Barzal is going to help that file.
Yeah, I think that's big. A former first-round pick, of course, Kiefer Bellows from a couple of years ago, a guy that does have some offensive punch, and it's a situation where if he's playing with Matt Barzal, that's a huge boost for him too. So I think Kiefer Bellows is an intriguing deep league ad.
That's Rob Wong. I'm Nick Alberga. Let's take a look now at the schedule for the upcoming week. If you like NHL hockey, this is your week, Rob. 55 games in total. So the big games and the big days, as we know, are usually Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. This week is no different. You want to look at schedules Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday's got 9 games. Overly busy for a Sunday for sure. No NFL football, as we know. But, notwithstanding the LA Kings, probably the one team you want to stay away from. You're probably good in going after players on the 30 other teams because they're very, very busy, including 18 different teams, as you see on your screen, have 4-game weeks. It's busy this week.
Yeah, it really is busy. And, we're at that time of the year where teams are pushing for points, pushing for playoff spots. So you're not really going to look elsewhere when it comes to options. Like you mentioned, there's so many teams, 18 teams playing, 4 games this week. So your options are plentiful. If you're looking at, players on the waiver wire, you're looking to stream different options. So, it's just LA. Outside of Cal Peterson, who we talked about, stay away from the LA Kings.
LA's not good anyways. No. They're a seller for sure, as we know. 3 teams I'm looking at specifically who I like their schedules. The Columbus Blue Jackets, Oliver Bjorkstrand at 41%, around there. Nick Foligno's a guy we just touted moments ago. I think from a Sportsnet fantasy hockey pool perspective, I'll talk about Elvis Merzlikins momentarily. Unbelievable. Man on fire, Denzel style right now. Zach Werenski's been hot. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think you look at that file. Montreal's got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday schedule. Jonathan Drouin back after missing 37 games. Ben Sherratt, as we just talked about. Jeff Petrie elevated now with Shea Weber not in that lineup. And the Vancouver Canucks, they have a 3-game week, but we like their schedule quite a bit. Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, some exposure to the lighter nights there. Thatcher Demko is going to play, only 9% ownership. One of the quietest stories right now in the NHL, what he's doing in a backup role for Jacob Markstrom in Vancouver. And the Canucks in general, I'm really, really starting to believe in this team. I know the last couple games they've been shaky, but the depth scoring has been something that's been phenomenal to me.
Yeah, all season long. They've had really good offense. Their defense is the part of their game that they struggle with the most. But I do like Vancouver. We just talked about Jake Virtanen. So I really like what they have to offer.
All right, Rob, so we're going to have a look now. We're going to switch things up a tad. As we know, we're getting closer and closer to the February 24th NHL trade deadline. Some trade deadline targets. It could be waivers. It can be guys that maybe you identify in the trade market. Mike Hoffman comes to mind. The guy's been on fire for the Florida Panthers. Could be moved. Probably not on a team that we think is going to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But why don't you start up front at forward in La Belle Province?
Yeah, you mentioned Ilya Kovalchuk, and the guy's just turning back the clock in Montreal.
It's crazy, man.
It is crazy. Like, he was doing a lot of the same things in LA, still shooting a ton, still getting a chance on the power play. But it's just completely different when you go to a team that's better, right?
Russians in Montreal in general, like Radulov, it's crazy.
Yeah, Kostitsyn brothers, right, from back in the day, so it works out really well. But Kovalchuk still can get up and down the ice, still has that monster, blast from the point, from the wing, where have you. So I think it's an interesting spot where wherever he goes, if he does get traded, he's going to get top 6 minutes. I don't think a team's bringing him on to play the third line. We saw that happen in LA, and it just didn't work out. It's just not his style. He's not a checking line forward, not a guy that, can only play with, 12 minutes a game. He needs to be out there a lot. He needs to feel the puck. He's one of those guys. So I think Ilya Kovalchuk is a really strong ad the rest of the way. I mean, he's been a top 100 forward, over the last month. So he's really bringing it right now, and it's crazy. Like Saturday night, Jason Spezza, Ilya Kovalchuk.
What year is it?
The 1 and 2 pick from 2001, still getting it done at this stage in the NHL. So
I was like, is it 2009 or is it 2020? And maybe, St. Laurent and Crescent Street in Montreal just have that impact on Russian players, if you know what I'm saying. Kovalchuk's found the fountain of youth. I'm going to Chris Kreider. He's been really, really strong the last couple months. I think the likelihood is gaining by the day that he is in fact dealt. I know the Rangers are going to say, yeah, we're looking to extend him. That's just up in the price. I think Boston's going to have a look. Calgary, there's a lot of team. He's going to boost a contender and likely play in a top 6 role. 20 goals, 38 points. I think you find some value there in targeting him. Chris Kreider on the trade market. And on the back end, I'm staying in that area. I'm going to Sami Vatanen. He's running the first power play unit in New Jersey right now. I still don't know if he's going to get traded because I think it's hard to find a right-handed shooting defenseman, as the Maple Leafs know all too well right now. But I do think some value in there. And another guy who's under the radar in Minnesota right now has actually been linked to teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, and understandably so, really struggled this year after a severe injury last year.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting spot for him this year. Yeah. I mean, I've always liked him from a fantasy perspective. In years past, he's put up some numbers, so I do like him. Matt Dumba is another guy that I'm looking at on defense. Clearly been tied to the Maple Leafs, a guy with some term. And my favorite fantasy hockey defensemen are the guys that shoot the puck a ton. And Matt Dumba, over the last month, he's leading the NHL in shots per 60 from D-men. He's 16th in the league this year in shots per 60. So the fit is where it's going to come down for me on Matt Dumba. If he's going to a team where he's going to be playing, top 4 minutes, going to be playing power play, that's great. But if he's moving to a team where he's in some sheltered minutes and not getting power play time, it's going to be difficult to look at him as a fantasy option.
Yeah, we can't Billy guarantee anything, who's the GM of the Minnesota Wild, when it comes to Matt Dumba, but we'll see if he gets moved. Of course, there's term on that contract, and just the need for right-handed shooting defensemen, offensive ones at that in the market is egregious, and a lot of teams could be looking at a player like Matt Dumba, so we'll see if he goes. In between the pipes, we're both staying in Chicago. I got Corey Crawford. You got Robin Lehner. But lost in the shuffle, Chicago's still in the playoff conversation in the Western Conference. Both these guys have really, really picked up their play the last little while.
Yeah, it seems unlikely that either of these guys is going to get moved, but there's a possibility.
They're both rentals or
you
UFAs.
Never know. Yeah, they're both UFAs. They're both rentals. And either of these guys would work for any team. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you love the fact that Corey Crawford has been able to bounce back following all those recent injuries, and it's nice to see him. Robin Lehner, I mean, that story's been told 1,000 times now, just how he turned around his career with some of the mental health things that he was dealing with in the past. But I think if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, you're happy with either one of these guys. But if you're a contending team, you're bringing on one of these players, it's huge because, Chicago, they're in the hunt, but they're not necessarily in the hunt. Every team's in the hunt at this point of the year. Yeah. But for those guys specifically, I mean, if they're going to contending teams, their numbers are only going to get better. Like, these are their numbers now on a team that's just meh. Yeah. I can't imagine what it's going to be like if they actually get moved to a really, really good
You're right. Chicago's been fascinating because they've really cleaned things up defensively, and that's led to the better goaltending. It's sort of astonishing when you get better defense. That in turn elevates your goaltending, as we're seeing in Columbus and Carolina and those sorts right now. But changing gears, let's have a look now at the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. Let's Ram Capable up right now. The Fantasy Forecheck is brought to you by the Canadian exclusive Ram 1500 Sport. This full-size pickup gives Canadians exceptional capability under the hood, advanced technology inside, and impeccable styling throughout. It's the Ram 1500 Sport, and it's designed for life in the North. And it's time to tell you about the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. 6 forwards, 4 defensemen, 2 goaltenders. Players are assigned point values from 1 to 4 points. And of course, you have 30 total points that you can use, and the Ram capable pick, and that's where we go next. We'll start up front, and Rob Wong goes first.
Yeah, Taylor Hall at a value of 2 is really jumping off the page for me this week. 4 games, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Washington. Hasn't been the fantasy force that I necessarily expected him to be getting traded to the Coyotes. I thought he'd be putting up way more points, but 19 in 22 games is not bad. But it's hard to pass on a value of 2 for a guy that's going to be playing Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and Washington. And even the Capitals, they've been pretty leaky defensively of late. So it's not as if there's some defensive juggernaut. We know what the deal is with those other 3 teams. So Taylor Hall still playing, top line minutes, still playing top power plays. Got an opportunity here to have a pretty strong weekend.
Yeah, that's important to stress. You want players who are playing teams who stink defensively, and that's a really, really good strategy. Steven Stamkos has been ripping the opposition as of late. So have Tampa. I still can't get over Vasilevsky, Andre Vasilevsky. 16-0-2 in the last 18 outings. He just does not lose. Tampa doesn't lose. A 10-game point streak here for Stamkos. 15 points in that time frame. Pretty easy decision when it comes to Ram-capable picks for me at forward. On the back end, I'm going with Brent Burns. Rob, the last 4 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. For my money, still the best offensive defenseman in the NHL. I think a close second is his teammate Erik Karlsson. But there's no pressure in San Jose. Tomas Hertl down, Logan Couture injured. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, and this is, I think, when they turn it on offensively. Brent Burns just at 2-point value. He started the year at a 3-point value in the Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool. I'm going with Burns. Who do you have on the the back end.
Seth Jones, who was a value of 1. How was he a value of 1, Nick?
They changed the picks a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, did they? Okay, so the algorithm might need to get fixed a little bit here with Seth Jones. He's essentially free money, right?
Yeah,
He's Tampa Bay, Buffalo, the Rangers, New Jersey this week. Some really solid matchups there. He's averaging half a point per game this year, which is right around guys like Thomas Chabot and Tyson Barrie. So we think of those guys as really strong offensive players. But this just comes down to the price. I mean, it's hard to get away from a D-man with a value of 1. Just gives you so much opportunity to put in, some studs like Steven Stamkos.
Exactly. It's all about, extracting value the best you can, especially in a 30 cap system. And again, you can go to sportsnet.ca to find this pool. And last but not least, we'll go in between the pipes. I'll go first and stay in Columbus. Elvis Merzlikins, he has been unbelievable. Jonas Korpisalo goes down. That was the worst injury to ever happen to his career. Remember, it was that game that John Tortorella lost his mind with the clock. But Merzlikins has taken over. It's been a blessing in disguise. He's won 8 of the last 9, including 5 shutouts. He is absolutely on fire. Easy pick for me. Who do you have?
Yeah, I got Connor Hellebuyck, who is a value of 3 this week for the Winnipeg Jets. Rangers, Sharks, Blackhawks is the matchups this week. No back-to-back, so he should make all 3 starts, which is huge. And after a rough January, he's been great in February. He's been fantastic all year, and just love the spot against 3 teams. You mentioned the Sharks out of it. Blackhawks are fighting for something, and the Rangers most likely going to be a seller. So there's some great opportunity here for Connor Hellebuyck to pick up 3 wins this week.
Yeah, and important to note as we wrap up here, the fact that it is trade deadline season, and a lot of teams are vying and jockeying for playoff positioning, and it's always a smart idea when teams have a lot to play for to go after players on those rosters, Rob.
Yeah, for sure. They are going to be putting out their guys playing a lot more minutes. Heck, we've seen with the Maple Leafs, guys are playing upwards of 23 minutes in a 60-minute game. So these teams are going to be riding their horses, so it's a perfect time of jumping on those guys.
Rob, excellent job. Don't tell Andy, but I hope he doesn't come back. No, I'm kidding. Rob, excellent job. That's Rob Wong. I'm Nick Alberga. Thanks so much for listening. Again, you can check out sportsnet.ca, and also for watching. I keep forgetting I'm not on radio right now.